Hey, Doug with Extreme Colors Auto Spa in Greenville. Today I'm going to share with you our preferred way of washing cars. There's many ways to wash a car. I get that, right? So you may have some good tricks that you're doing. You may have a great way you're doing it, but not everybody does a great job of washing cars. We know that 95 up to 95% of paint defects come from improper washing, whether that be an automated car wash with brushes or from bad practices washing at home. So today I'm going to show you, I'm at my house. I'm going to show you my setup, what I use to do it, and how I do it. And hopefully this will help you to be able to wash your car safely without putting swirls or scratches in it. So the car that I'm going to be washing today is our display car. It's Extreme M2 is what we call it. We got a big BMW event tomorrow, so I'm going to wash it. I want it to look awesome, and it's going to be our example today. So I'm going to start with talking about the chemicals that I'm going to be using today. The most important thing is the soap that I'm using. So this is our very own Extremes Suds. It's made for ceramic coated vehicles, which of course the M2 is ceramic coated. So that'll be our soap. And then the wheel cleaner that we'll be using is our premium wheel cleaner. I've got brushes here. I'll be using this. I have two different sizes. And I've got this sponge that I'm going to actually use as a wash mitt. And it's got these little cuts in it so that it makes it kind of glide over the areas really well. And then this is going to be our tire brush that I'm going to use. Now I want to share with you our pressure washer that we're going to use. I do have a gas pressure washer that I use for doing the driveway. It's like a 3,000 plus PSI pressure washer, but I'm not going to use that for the car. I'm going to use this, and this is the same pressure washer that we use at our shop. This is the AR Blue 383. These things, even with commercial use, we get about 6 months out of them. For home use, we'll get years out of this pressure washer, but it's 1900 PSI. It's just enough power to clean the car really well without being dangerous for the paint finish. Now what I'm doing, I'm going to hook up our hose. I have a sink out here in the garage, and I'm going to hook it to our AR Blue pressure washer. And you can see I have this just bungee down to the cabinet so that it stays stationary because this thing's kind of light. That's the only bad thing about it. But I'm just going to hook this up here, and we're going to be ready to go. In case you're wondering about how much soap to use in your foam cannon canister, we use about 50-50. Depending on how dirty the vehicle is, you could go 75% soap and 25% water. And if the car is somewhat clean, you could even do 25% soap and 75% water. But I typically like to use about a 50-50 mixing ratio with our soap versus water. So now what I'm going to do, I've got our Extreme Suds and our foam cannon here. I'm going to foam the car up with the soap. I'm going to let that set for a few minutes, and I'm going to rinse it off. And what that's going to do, the soap's going to break down the dirt, and then it's going to allow it to be released when I do the rinse. The last thing I want to do is put soap on the car and then go grab a wash mitt and start rubbing that dirt around into the paint. In the case of the M2, it's fully wrapped in our paint protection film, so it will heal from scratches, but I still, for most cars, aren't wrapped in clear bra fully. And even if it is, you still don't want to intentionally put scratches into the clear bra, and you definitely don't want to put it into your paint. One thing you want to pay particular attention to is your hose. You want to have proper hose management because I've seen more cars get scratched with hoses being lifted up onto bumpers and rocker panels. So make sure you pay attention to that. So now I want to talk about the actual washing technique. So I have two buckets here. I'm sure you've heard of the two bucket method. We have one bucket that is got clean water. One bucket's going to have soap. Both buckets have a grit guard in the bottom. So that allows us to, when our sponge or our wash mitt goes into the bucket, any grit that we picked up off the car will fall below the guard and you won't be picking it back up on your sponge and then reapplying dirt to your car. That's the idea behind the grit guard. So there's two variations you can do here. If you have a foam cannon, and after you do your pre-rinse with the foam cannon and you get kind of the dirt off of there like we've done here, you can reapply foam and then you can go to washing one panel at a time. In that case, you wouldn't necessarily need two buckets. You would only need one bucket because the foam itself on the car is acting as a bucket. I don't prefer that method if I'm washing a car alone because that means I'm foaming a car and the foam's having to sit on there for a good while, and I'd rather that not happen. So what I'm going to do is do the conventional two bucket method where I'm going to have soap and water in one bucket. We have our clean water bucket here. I'm going to do one panel at a time. As far as putting our soap in our bucket, I'm going to show you. I'm not measuring this out. It's kind of like a baker's ingredients there. You can see I'm just kind of adding what I think it needs. Don't need a ton of soap. That's plenty. Now I'm about to start the wash process, and I want you to notice first of all what I'm wearing. I'm not wearing blue jeans. I'm not wearing something that has little metal tabs on it. These are soft clothes because with me using this wash mitt, I'm gonna have to be getting close to the car, so I don't want to have anything on my body that's going to potentially scratch the car. And I'm going to start and go from the top down, one panel at a time. Now this car the soap doesn't want to stick because of our ceramic coating, and that's not a plug. That's just the reality of it. Very hydrophobic. And anything I'm doing when I'm doing something like this, whether if I was polishing by hand or washing, I'm always going to go like crisscross this way and then this way. And really one time's good enough. And I feel comfortable now because the temperature is lower. I'm going to go ahead and do this whole top. If it was a little hotter and I was worried about the soap drying too soon, then I would just do the very top. Go ahead and clean that off a little bit. Some more soap. If the car was really dirty, I would be cleaning this sponge off after every single panel, and I would include this windshield as a panel, and the side glasses as a panel, the roof as a panel, and the rear glass as a panel. But this car was pretty clean when I started, so I'm not going to need to do that. Again, cleaning out that sponge and put it back into the soap. Now I'm going to rinse. See those ceramic beads on there, beading up, doing their work, doing their magic. One thing, I almost dropped my sponge, so I would recommend having at least a couple of these on hand. I wouldn't even reuse a sponge. If it hit the concrete driveway here, there's no way I would reuse this sponge. Even if I rinsed it out, I would go grab a new one. So make sure you have at least a couple. You could always wash it in the washing machine later if you want to. I'll leave that up to you. I'm not going to make a recommendation on that. To me, if a sponge hits, the ground, it's trash. I mean, you could use it for underneath the rocker panels or something like that. But I personally wouldn't use a sponge that's been on the ground on a car ever again. But that's just me. I'm going to clean the wheels, and I don't know about you, but wheels, I can spend as much time on wheels as I do the rest of the car. But I got a pretty quick little process here. One thing I have is our extreme wheel cleaner. I have these easy detail brushes. They're very soft, but they're coarse enough to actually clean. You can get these from Detailed Image. I have a mini and then a larger size. This is for the tire, to clean the tires with. It's soft, but if you touch the paint, it's not going to scratch. Then I have this applicator pad. Of course, I have my grit guard down there. And first thing I'm going to do is pre-soak. Now, these wheels are, of course, ceramic coated, so they're going to clean a lot easier than a car that doesn't have ceramic coated wheels. Go ahead and kind of let that start working. I'm going to take my larger brush here, and I definitely want to get way back there. Get those wheel barrels. Dirty wheel barrels are not a good thing. No matter how much time you spend on the wheel, if you have dirty wheel barrels, it's going to look hideous. Same is true for the calipers. Got to get those really clean. So that gets in there real good. So that's what I use that for. And then I got the mini I'm going to get here in these spokes. Clean them. I got all them. Make sure I hit these little areas here. And then I'm going to get this caliper with this mini wheel brush. Really get on that all over so that I get it clean. I'm going to take my little applicator, kind of do kind of a final once over, just make sure I got everything. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Get behind these spokes. Definitely get this caliper really good. I can always go back and do a touch-up on the caliper later if I need to. Then I'm going to take my tire brush and just hit these tires one at a time. Doesn't take much scrubbing on the tires. The cleaner is so strong. I'm going to rinse it off. So now what I'm doing, I'm using our Ryobi leaf blower to blow this water off of this car. Again, on a ceramic coated car, the water is going to go off very easily. This works good because it's easy to manage. The battery lasts a long time. And we love this Ryobi brand. We think it's awesome. It's also good for pushing leaves off your driveway. But check it out. Now that we have the car blown off, got probably 85% of the water off of it, we're going to go over it with our microfibers. We buy microfibers. We don't get too fancy with them. These are great microfibers. You can get them at Sam's or Costco in bulk. And the thing we do is we wash them before we use them the first time, and that way we don't end up with lint getting all over the car, and it also softens them up really nice. And the one thing with that, don't use a fabric softener sheet with it to dry it because it will clog it up where it won't absorb. Just wash it with regular detergent, and then also make sure you pull these little tabs off, and that way you won't scratch your car with it. So that is a perfect towel to finish your drying with. And that concludes our video on how to wash a car properly using the extreme method. You should count on, at the quickest time, about 30 minutes, maybe an hour at the longest. The ceramic coating does help speed up the process tremendously. But take a look at how beautiful this car looks now. It's a 2-year-old black vehicle, and look how awesome it looks. And I do appreciate you for watching. Take care.